everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Films by Jeremy, and it's once again great to be back. I know I say that in every video, but it's true. Sorry I haven't posted in the last few weeks with vacation and then just work. It's been incredibly busy, and I hope that you have also been doing well. Let me know in the comments how you've been doing. And before we really start this video, if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. And okay, let's get into it. TTArtisan is a company that I've heard about in passing, but I've never really looked into too often because as much as I really like lenses, I just haven't needed any more, so I haven't really been shopping around. And so I was super excited when they reached out to me to review one of their new autofocus lenses. And before we dive in, I will say they sent me this lens. No money is exchanged hands. I get to keep the lens, and other than sending me the lens, I have an affiliate link, so if you're interested, feel free to click that link, or if not, buy it another way. It's all the same to me. And another really cool thing about this lens is that it's under $200. So without further ado, let's dig in. And here we have this incredibly sleek, minimal box. A warranty card, a user manual, and without further ado, this is the 75mm f2 autofocus lens by TTArtisan, and I have the L-mount edition. Cool thing about this lens, before we actually get into the lens itself, it is that the cover cap has a USB-C connector here, so you're actually able to update the lens with this cap. The 75mm focal range. I've never used a 75mm prime lens. Typically the prime lenses I use are like, let's say a 35, a 50, an 85, where something like an 85mm I find to be, during a run and gun situation, sometimes just a little bit too tight. However, if you're like sniping some subjects, you don't want to get in people's ways. It's certainly a great lens. But the majority of the times I do find it to be a pretty tight lens. However, 75 gives you just a little bit more width, 10mm more width, while still retaining some really awesome background compression. Also, I will note that the minimal focusing distance on this lens is 0.75 meters, which might seem a little bit far. I would say it's from me to you. You still get very comfortably close to your subject while creating that awesome shallow depth of field. So how does the autofocus perform? For my use cases, it performed very well, like any other lens that I have. I didn't really notice any sort of hunting or breathing within the focusing. I felt it did its job. When using the autofocus, you will notice a very subtle hum within the autofocus motor or the lens motors. Not a super loud hum like the Canon Nifty 50, if you remember that. But it's still there, and I thought I'd bring it up anyway. Certainly not a deal breaker. Another thing to note is that this lens has no autofocus manual focus switch, so you have to do that all within your camera. Let's talk about build quality. How does this thing feel? What is it made out of? So this is a super small lens. It's actually smaller than the Lumix prime lenses by just a little bit, but I feel like weight-wise, it's actually slightly heavier than the Lumix prime lenses. The Lumix prime lenses are made out of a plastic, where the TTArtisan 75mm is made out of a metal body through and through without any sort of compromise. The only thing that isn't metal or glass is the lens cap, hood, and covering. So the build quality for its price is incredibly premium. Also, there is an aperture ring. I do like aperture rings. So my favorite part of all this is image quality. How does the image look out of the lens? And that's really the most important part, right? The image coming out of this lens is very pleasant. The bokeh is around a soft, which for some I can understand being not too interesting, as sometimes we like more prominent bokeh, but I find it to be pleasant and not too distracting from the foreground subject. I really like the background separation of the 75mm focal length. Every shot has some nice compression to it. There is a subtle vignette present in this lens. Personally, I'm a huge fan of vignettes and I apply them to every one of my shots. So having it naturally in the lens is something that I find just kind of cool. Maybe not everyone's a fan of that, and that might be a deal breaker. However, I am. I like the way that this lens handles lens flares, creating more of a light leak rather than a sharp lens flare. Overall, the image is quite nice coming from this lens. Price. This lens is incredibly affordable for what it offers. At $175 US or $199 Canadian. So let's just talk about a few things that I like. The size. This lens is small and compact, perfect for a travel camera like the S9. Weight. It's light at 329 grams, but it has some weight due to its metal material. The aperture ring. I find the aperture ring satisfying to use. Things that I like less. These items are just nitpicks, not necessarily deal breakers for me, but I thought I would just acknowledge them anyway. A lack of manual focus autofocus switch, so you gotta use your physical camera buttons to switch from manual focus to autofocus. Focus distance, again, nitpick, but there's a focus distance of 0.75 meters, so it's not a macro lens. You can't get super close to your subject. When using autofocus, there's just a hum from the motor within the lens. So would I recommend this lens? Yes, I'd recommend this lens. Not just because of its price, but I feel like the image quality coming out of this lens punches well above its price point. So what do you think about this lens? Let me know in the comments below. Is it something you consider picking up, or is it just cool to look at? Thank you guys so much again for watching this video, and thank you TTArtisan for sending out this lens. I truly appreciate your support, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye now.